couple days ago, I was scrolling through Twitter as I'm wont to do, and I came across this really interesting thread discussing this anti-leaflet law that was just passed or had been passed in South Korea not too long ago, and this page no dato. Um, Apologies if I'm butchering that, and discussing this. And then, so this is South Korean Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-hwa on CNN being interviewed about it. Let's see what she says. And then we'll go through this thread.
Program of kind of getting South Korean information into North Korea. The parliament this week has criminalized that leaflet law.
Well, this wasn't the first time that Parliament tried to proscribe that activity. There have been a dozen legislative initiatives over the years since 2008, I believe, because this is happening in a very sensitive area, the most militarized zone in the whole world, with people living right next to the border area. And we have an incident in 2014 when the balloon was shot at by anti-aircraft artillery by the North Koreans, and the South Koreans military felt compelled to shoot back. So in an area
It
where
escalates things.
highly militarily tense area where anything can go wrong, lead to even bigger clashes. And the people living near the border
Dangerous for them, yeah.
that these activities stop for years. And so I think this time the parliament has there was a recent incident of balloons going towards the north, and the North Korean replied by completely blowing up the Kaesong liaison office. This argument that this is a restriction on freedom of expression. Freedom of expression, I think, is absolutely a vital human rights, but it's not absolute. It can be limited. According to the ICCPR, it has to do it by law. It has to be limited in scope, and it is limited in scope. It is only when these acts poses harm or poses danger
Which
to
this
the life
would.
and the security of our people.
And the people of, DPRK, Democratic People's Republic of Korea. So let's look at this. 2017, North and South Korea signed the Panmunjom Declaration, an agreement to end the Korean War and build towards reunification. It's awesome. The Panmunjom Declaration called for an end of all forms of U.S. ROK, Republic of Korea aggression, including the distribution of propaganda leaflets. And is Kim Jong-il, right? And I do not know who the president or prime minister of South Korea is. My apologies. U.S.-funded groups in South Korea have sent propaganda leaflets into the DPRK for many years. South Korea failed to stop the leaflets until this year, when the Anti-Leaflet law was passed. The distribution of leaflets was a factor that led to a breakdown in talks this spring. And again, you can see why that CNN anchor, Christina Amanpour, I believe their name is, took this, kind of approach, and why it's being covered in the U.S. is because the U.S. won't be able to get their propaganda into North Korea anymore to try to foment, momentum around regime change and stuff like that. So that's why it's being covered in the U.S., because it goes against, our empire and our goals over there with regards to that. Anti-leaflet law is being attacked in the U.S. press on the grounds of freedom of speech. This distracts from the real issue at hand. Here we go. The ongoing division and state of war in Korea perpetuated by U.S. occupation and imperial. I mean, look at all these fucking, military bases there. I mean, Jesus Christ. Get rid of all that shit. I mean, taxpayer dollars hard at work trying to, oppress the DPRK through our imperialism. It's disgusting. attacks in the anti-leaflet law are just the latest in decades of U.S. efforts to undermine Korean sovereignty. The U.S. has stood in the way of achieving the vision agreed to in Panmunjom by intensifying sanctions on DPRK and blocking construction of an inter-Korean rail. That's so disgusting. Actual issues of free speech in South Korea, like the national security law, NSL, barely receive attention in the U.S. Of course, because that benefits the military-industrial complex and the U.S. empire. The NSL bans anti-state speech. It was a pretext for some of the worst massacres in Korean history. Has never been repealed. Wow. A book I read by Danny Haifong and Robert Servant called American Exceptionalism and American Innocence, and there's a subtitle which I forget, talking about how the Korean War is kind of the forgotten war, something you don't really think about, but it's still going on in both, South and North Korea, because look at all those bases that are still there. Look at all the billions of dollars the U.S. is putting into this. It's disgusting. The U.S. has masked imperialism in Asia under claims of defending freedom since the 19th century. The flip side of these claims to protect liberal ideas has been mass violence and destruction, hot wars, white terror, and economic integration in the U.S. war machine. The appeal to freedom of speech can be separated from U.S. interests. The occupation and militarization of Korea, plus the Pacific, sanctions on DPRK, and sabotaging Korean-led reunification efforts all share a common goal of advancing imperialism deeper into Korea and Asia. So there you go. Always be careful of taking to heart what you hear in mainstream news about what's going on in other countries, because this, is just another example of that. This anti-leaflet law seems like really important to help reunify South Korea with the DPRK, and to hopefully kick out all these fucking military people and get their bases out of there and all that shit. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. So there you go. A little bit of backstory on this leaflet law, anti-leaflet law, I should say, that was passed in South Korea. And yeah, definitely hope both sides of Korea are able to continue to reunify and work out their differences, and through more, mutual aid and diplomacy, helping each other out and kicking all these fuckers out of there. It's disgusting. Share your thoughts in the comment sections down below. Subscribe for more content. If you like the video, like the damn video. If not, dislike the video. That's cool too. Peace.